We are back and we are bringing you some fantasy football talk this time. I know we've been making a lot of NBA videos, but the NFL season is right around the corner. I do apologize if you already did your fantasy draft. I know that this might be getting to you a little bit late, but I figured, never late than or better late than never. And I know for most of my leagues, I'm actually doing the draft the last week before the first game on September 10th. So I'm kind of seeing that around fantasy a lot. A lot of people are waiting, more than normal just because of everything with COVID-19. So figured I would release it. Or I'd release this video as quickly as possible. So sorry if it got to you too late and you already did the draft, but hey, these could be people, if it's not a deep league in terms of like a lot of teams, these could be people you pick up. But today, going to be talking about my top 10 sleepers in fantasy football. These are players, again, fantasy perspective. This is not like a ranking, in terms of what I think these players will do, in terms of overall. But this is on a fantasy perspective, and these are guys that I could see putting up pretty good numbers, especially from where you could potentially get them in your drafts. So first person, we're going to kind of just kick it off. Again, in no particular order. It's not number 1 through number 10. Like this is the first person I would pick up. These are just my 10 suggestions on guys that I think are going to be a lot better than where you draft them at, let's just say, and that are not getting a lot of hype. So, with that being said, the first person is the Washington football team, no longer the R words, no longer the Washington, you guys know, but so the Washington football team, I think Antonio Gibson. So he is a rookie running back. Wow, I cannot talk already. He's a rookie running back from Memphis. I think he's getting a lot of talks. If you follow a lot of the fantasy football guys, he's getting a lot of talk there. But in terms of a player, I feel like most people don't know about him, so that's why I'm including him on this list. I know if you follow Matthew Berry and a couple of the other guys, I know that they have talked about him, but he's more so in the normal football world, non-fantasy football world. He doesn't get much talk, and the reason why I have him on the sleeper list, as you can see, ESPN's 2020 projections here. They give about 67 carries, 300 yards roughly, 2 touchdowns. But in the receiving game is where they think that he can really, really light it up. 40 receptions, 386 yards, and a touchdown. So obviously those are projections, but the biggest reason that I think he is going to do pretty well as a rookie is, one, they don't have anybody else, honestly. It's the Washington football team, aka the Redskins. they're one of the worst teams in the league. They really don't have, without Darius Geis, they have Adrian Peterson, who's very old, and he is a straight at this point in his career, he's just going to run you over, and kind of the one cut running back. He's not a very good catcher. So, and they don't really have anybody else because Chris Thompson went to Jacksonville. So he's actually on my list as well. So sneak peek. But it's kind of the reason why I have him on my sleepers list, is really just the receiving game, and they don't really have anybody else. I do think AP is going to get most of the carries in terms of running it. But in terms of passing, he's really their only option. And like I said, the Redskins are bad. I think they're going to be down a decent amount. I know their defense is good, which could keep them in games, but they're not that good of a team overall. So they could be down, trying to come back, and that's when you pass it the most. So Antonio Gibson is kind of my first sleeper there. My second sleeper, let's look him up on ESPN. Sorry, I'm looking up the ESPN projections just to show you guys. So DJ Chark is my second sleeper. I know he gets some talks because he did have a pretty good season last year. He had 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, which is really good. But he's on the Jags, who are also probably the worst team in football, I want to say. So I feel like he doesn't get a lot of credit that he deserves. Biggest thing for him, again, their offense isn't the best. They're going to be going to him. Second thing is the offensive style that they switched to. A lot of people think the Jags are going to just be ground and pound. They did actually just cut Leonard Fournette today. I'm recording this. Spoiler alert: I am recording this on the day that they cut Leonard Fournette. That he just didn't fit. Fournette did not fit because they switched offenses entirely. I can't. I know that they have. Is it Jay Gruden? I think it is. I'm reading. Yeah, it is Jay Gruden. I know Gardner Minshew isn't the best in terms of like cannon of an arm, but their offense that they're building now is going to be pass first, and that's why I kind of have him as one of my top sleepers because of that. They're going to be pass happy or more pass happy than they have been, and he's a really good player. He gets slept on. He's a really good player. So that's why he is on my list. They have him projected at 74 catches for 992 yards and 5 touchdowns. So, I mean, if he gives you that, that's pretty good numbers, as a flex option, especially for where you can draft him. Sticking to the same team is Chris Thompson on the Jacksonville Jaguars as well, like I said earlier, who left the Washington Redskins. The biggest thing for him is, can he stay healthy? That is the number one thing. We've seen so many of his electric seasons cut short with the Redskins because of injury. So that's the huge question mark. But same as the Redskins, now that they cut Fournette, they have nobody. Their running back is, right now, their projected starters, Raquel Thormstein or Thormstead. I can't remember actually. I know I'm butchering his name. I know that's not actually his name either. I can't remember exactly. I know it's Raquel, starts with a T. So, but basically my point is they have nobody at running back, and really besides DJ Chark, anywhere on their offense. No one that's like electric, that's going to kind of take the top off. I know they did get Laviska Shenault. We'll see how he plays. He could do a lot of the underneath stuff, but Chris Thompson is going to be the check down king in that offense that, like I said, they're going to be more pass happy than normal. So ESPN actually has him projected at 258 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, but 396 receiving yards with 1 touchdown. They almost have him as many catches as carries, which I completely agree with. I think he may even have more. So that's why he's kind of one of those, in the deeper leagues, you can get him pretty late. So I would keep a lookout for him. He could have a breakout game that kind of wins you 1 or 2. My next person is a rookie, actually, which is rookies are usually kind of stay away from for the first year, but I have Brandon Aiyuk on my sleepers list. I made sure to do so. I've done 1 draft so far, and I made sure to pick him up. I have 3 others. I love fantasy football. I'm in a lot of leagues, which kind of bites me in the ass every now and then when I have so many players on different teams. But I made sure, and I'm going to make sure, I pick up Brandon Aiyuk. The reason being, he may not have the huge rookie year, but I think he'll still, even in his rookie season, I think he's going to do pretty well. So if you are doing the where you draft every single year a new team, he could still be a good option. He's mainly a huge player for the keeper leagues or the dynasty franchises, just because you can keep him long term. But even on a 1-term basis, they have Deebo Samuels, who's a beast, but he is hurt, I believe, for the first 2 to 4 weeks are kind of in question. With that being said, I know Brandon Aiyuk is also struggling with an injury, but he's expected to be there for week 1. They have, besides him, they don't have much else on as receivers. I know they don't really need big names or heavy target guys with their offense that they run, but He's a beast, and I've heard nothing but positive things. Apparently, he's one of their strongest looking in camp so far. So that's really positive. And when we saw with Debo Samuels, when Shanahan has an explosive athlete, he can get them the ball. And Aiyuk he's explosive, especially. I mean, if I think he had one of the highest numbers for rack uh, receiving after catch or receiving yards after catch. Sorry, um, he had one of the highest there, and then he's explosive. So that's why I kind of have him up there, um, especially when Debo Samuels is out, and even when he comes back in, I think he'll be pretty good. The next person, this could be because I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, but Deontay Johnson is my next sleeper. He had a pretty good rookie year with horrible quarterback play with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. I mean, they were terrible, and he was still a beast. He was probably our best receiver, mainly because Juju was hurt, but he was probably our best receiver anyways. I think with Big Ben, I think he could have a breakout year. I really do. I've heard nothing but positive things coming from him in camp. I've heard even that he's looked better than Juju at times. And what's great about him is, yes, he's a smaller receiver, but he can line up on the outside. He can line up in the slot. He can move all around, and we move him all around. We don't really stick with him in one spot. And he is shifty, especially with those routes. And when you're a young guy who can run routes, that's what gets you playing time. That's what keeps you in games because you can get open for veteran quarterbacks like Big Ben. So I think he's going to have a big year. ESPN projections just have him having 787 yards. I say just, but that's not much more than his 680 last year. Same touchdowns as 5. I wouldn't be surprised if he hits closer to 1,000. That's how confident I am. I think he's going to be pretty good. So he's probably my number one sleeper if I ranked him. So on to the next one is Paris Campbell with the Indianapolis Colts. So he's another guy I'm hearing a lot of good things in camp. Also, T.Y. Hilton, he is old. He's a little bit older now. He's 30. He's also very inconsistent with his health. I know they did just draft Michael Pittman, but he's more of a big body receiver. Pittman, I didn't put him on my sleepers list, but he could be another sleeper because Rivers, we saw with Mike Williams and even some with Keenan Allen, he likes to just chuck it up. So Pittman could be a good catch. But the thing about Campbell is he is fast. And we know Rivers, he doesn't have the best arm, but he's willing to chuck it downfield. You know, he may not get it there, but he's willing. He does not care about throwing the picks. So I think that kind of helps Campbell. And like I said, he apparently is having a really good camp. I've heard a lot of good things. So he could be their number 2 receiver to start out with and then maybe play a lot of slots. So that's why I kind of have him as a sleeper. ESPN has him projected potentially getting 548 yards and 548 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns and even a couple of carries, which I've seen them give him the ball a couple of times. So he's a guy I'd keep out there. I'd keep a watch on. And next person is tight end Chris Herndon with the New York Jets. So you'll see I don't have a lot of QBs. I tried to. I feel like there's not many sleepers at quarterback, so I'm going mainly skill position or all skill position guys. So Chris Herndon, he had a very bad last year because he didn't play, and he was my biggest sleeper last year. I drafted him in I think every single league because when he played in 2018 and 17, I can't remember exactly. Sam Darnold loves throwing it to him and loves throwing it to his tight ends. We saw Ryan Griffith. I can't remember exactly. We saw him have a pretty productive last season because Darnold does like to throw to his tight ends. Herndon, if he can stay healthy, he's very athletic. He's a very good player. So ESPN has him projected 49 catches, 601 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I'd keep a lookout for him, especially because I know after Kelsey and Kittle, tight end kind of drops, so I'd keep a lookout on him. You could probably get him pretty late. And sticking to the tight end trend is my next player, which is Eric Ebron. So another could be Steelers homer bias, but I have seen nothing but praise for this man in camp. I can't remember who it was, but one of the defensive players posted a picture, or no, or commented on a video, and of him running routes, and said that he's going to be a problem, so that he's been one of the toughest guards in training camp and kind of their workouts. I mean, I wouldn't say he puts up what he had with Andrew Luck in, was it 2017? But no, 2018. That's when he had that huge year with a crazy number of touchdowns. But I would not be surprised if he has a very, very good year. We saw, if you're a Steelers fan, when we had Ladarius Green for like a total of 4 games because he was always hurt, Big Ben loves throwing it to his tight ends. We just haven't had a tight end since Heath Miller. I know we've had Vance and he has his flashes, but he's not a beast. He's not an amazing athlete. He's good. So Big Ben does get it to his tight ends. I think Ebron could have a big year. He's projected 43 catches, 505 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I wouldn't be surprised if he has a little bit more touchdowns than that. Maybe not so many yards, because we have so many weapons. The Steelers have so many weapons, but I wouldn't be surprised if he had a big year. My next player is Emmanuel Sanders. He was now on the Saints. A lot of people, I have not seen many people talk about him at all. He's going to be their number 2 behind Michael Thomas, and he's a really, really good player, an underrated player, an ex-Steeler. Maybe that's why it's getting a lot of Steelers guys on this list, but he's a savvy veteran. We saw as soon as the 49ers traded for him last year, he had an instant impact and really helped their offense. I think he does the same thing with the Saints and kind of be that second tier, or that second wide receiver that they've been missing for a very long time. And they still like to pass. So with Drew Brees, I wouldn't be shocked if he has a big year. He's projected 56 catches, 747 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He'd be a guy to look out for. My final person, I believe, my final person, sorry, I couldn't count for a second, is David Johnson. Now, a lot of you guys may be like, Mike, what are you talking about? That was one of the worst trades. I agree. That was the worst trade I've ever seen with DeAndre Hopkins going to the Cardinals. It was the worst trade I've ever seen. But that is exactly why I think he could potentially have a pretty good year. I'm not saying, again, none of these guys I'm saying are like going to be top 5 at their position, but compared to where you can draft these guys, I think they could be pretty good. And he's one of them because if you think about it, I'm blanking on his name, the head coach of the Texans. Oh my, I'm literally picturing him, but I cannot picture his name. Whatever, you guys know who he is. I cannot think of his name for some reason. He is going to he's going to force it to David Johnson. He has to prove that the trade was at least not as horrible, at least not the worst trade of all time like people think. So I think Johnson, and another thing is, besides Duke Johnson, they don't really have anybody else. David Johnson can play wide receiver even if he's healthy. Obviously, this is a big if he can stay healthy. But when he was prime David Johnson with Cardinals, he was a top receiver. So if he lines up at wide receiver, at running back, he's going to get a majority of those carries. He's going to get a lot of catches. I think he's going to be kind of force-fed the ball, and that's why I have him here. He's kind of a buy low, and potential's pretty high with him just because they're going to force him the ball, I feel like, because I'm still blanking on his name. the Texans head coach is going to need to force him the ball to prove that he's not an idiot. So he kind of rounds out my list. David Johnson's projected 233 carries, 940 yards rushing with 6 touchdowns. But in the receiving game, 39 receptions for 372 and 3 touchdowns. I think the receiving game may be where he has the biggest impact. So he's kind of rounds out my sleepers list, but those would be 10 guys that I would be a lookout for and see if you can draft later in your drafts. Like I said, they're not going to finish top 5 at their positions, but for where you can get a lot of these guys, I think it's very good value. So let me know what you guys think. Leave your comments down below on any of the players. Make sure to like and subscribe to the video, and I'll see you guys next time.